Today, fellas, we're going to be doing a deep dive review on the new and improved Horror Story. Now, this is the Festival of the Lost auto rifle with some truly unique perk combinations. And the question I want to answer, is this a weapon you should be grinding for? Should you be committing your time getting these eerie Ingrams, farming candy, and then choosing to focus for this weapon or not? Personally, guys, for me, Horror Story is worth it. We're going to touch on this weapon's time to kill, its forgiveness inside of PvP, its potential inside of PvE, and also go over why I think you should absolutely get this weapon. Now, starting out with our base weapon here, Horror Story is a Stasis Precision 450 round per minute auto rifle. Now, this puts Horror Story in the same category as everyone's favorite, Amit. Now, Amit, just like all of our other auto rifles, did receive a range nerf. Although Amit went a step further, Bungie actually nerfed its zoom. Some could look at this as a buff, but for the most part, its ability to snag shots outside of its damage fall off range is no more. And we're going to be talking about Amit more this week. With that being said, though, there is a possible void here that Horror Story could actually fill. Not only that, it can also hang quite well inside of PvE. Now, checking on our perks, in the left column, we have Elemental Capacitor, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Discord, Inline Action, Under Over, Envious Assassin, and Demolitionist. In our right column, we have Headstone, Collective Action, Target Lock, Cascade Points, Frenzy, Vorpal Weapon, and Adrenaline Junkie. Now, for the PvP role that we landed on, and the one I wanted to see more than anything, was of course the combination of Dynamic Sway and Target Lock. This is a combination we've seen on other weapons, but not on a 450 round per minute auto. Now, Dynamic Sway reads that it improves accuracy and stability while continuously holding down the trigger. One of my favorite perks in the game, guys. So many great benefits from Dynamic Sway, and has been a top tier perk for years, especially fast rate of fire weapons. Now, specifically, for every uninterrupted shot, Dynamic Sway Reduction will grant +1 stability, -5% accuracy cone size, and -10% accuracy cone growth. These effects cap out at 10 shots for a total of 10 stability, -50% accuracy cone size, and -100% accuracy cone growth. That's a lot of anti-bloom. We cannot understate just how beneficial this trait actually is for maintaining accuracy for your weapons. Like, disregard the benefits of just having more stability, which of course helps with recoil. What you really love to see here is that decrease in our accuracy cone size and growth. This allows our weapon to remain stickier and also still stay on target. And keep in mind, it's easy to activate, literally just laying on the trigger, which is why this is such a great dueling perk. It's not kill activated, just simply holding the trigger and you get those benefits. Now, moving on to our right column, we have a couple perks I want to talk about. Each perk will be giving us more damage, but we're going to give some different reasonings behind them. To make sure I can properly showcase how good these perks are, we need to get our baseline TTK out of the way with our weapons forgiveness. At base, Horror Story takes out a 10 resilience guardian in 6 crits, 1 body for a time to kill of 0.8 seconds. Now at 7 resilience, our forgiveness goes up to 5 crits, 2 body, still maintaining that TTK value of 0.8 seconds. And then at tier 2 resilience or less, our TTK actually will drop to 0.67 seconds at 6 crits. That's cooking, guys. So with our base covered, we can go look back at our perks to see what we want to lower our TTK with. And of those, we have 3 that we're going to be showcasing today. First, we have Collective Action. Second, we have Target Lock. And third, we have Cascade Points. Now, our favorite option here is, of course, Target Lock. It's a great dueling perk. You don't have to self-activate it. Simply laying on the trigger, which synergizes great with Dynamic Sway, and remaining on target will give you these benefits. Now, the perk description states that the damage increases the longer this weapon remains on target. Now, for what is not said in this perk description is that Target Lock's damage increase will proc after hitting 12.5% of the weapon's magazine. And that damage increase is about an extra 10% on the first bullet, and a little more with each consecutive round. Now, if you miss a shot, the buff goes away. Now, as far as this affecting our time to kill and forgiveness, against a Guardian with tier 10 to tier 7 resilience, we can get a kill at 5 crits and 2 body, still giving us that time to kill value of 0.8 seconds. But again, we can kill a tier 10 resilience Guardian. So in this case, Target Lock is giving us a little more forgiveness. Then against a Guardian with 6 resilience or less, we can actually kill that Guardian in 6 crits with a time to kill value of 0.67 seconds with Target Lock. Now, I also want to talk outside of the numbers of why this perk is my favorite here. And it really isn't hard to see, but Target Lock is another incredible dueling perk similar to that of Dynamic Sway Reduction. They both synergize together, and it performs so well in 1v1s. So yes, guys, Target Lock is working. No, it's not dropping our TTK lower than what you can get at base, but it's those levels of forgiveness that's so beneficial. Going from killing a Guardian in 6 crits at tier 2 resilience to now killing Guardians at tier tier 6 resilience in 6 crits, that's incredible. And still having the ability to kill max resilience guardians at 5 crits to body, that is why this perk combination is so good. Now, I've talked a lot of good stuff about target lock. What about our other perks? Collective action, cascade points, are these good options as well? Well, collective action reads that collecting elemental pickups or throwing a strand tangle grants a stacking period of increased damage. Now, elemental pickups include fire sprites, void breaches, stasis shards, onyx traces, and strand tangles. Now, as for how potent this damage increase is, it's a 10% buff inside of PvP, which lasts for 7 seconds. Now, before we go into how to use this perk optimally, let's show why it's good. With collective action procced against guardians tier 10 to tier 7 resilience, we can kill in 6 crits, giving us a faster time to kill value, sitting at 0.67 seconds. Now, against guardians with tier 6 resilience and below, we can actually kill those guardians and still the same time to kill value, but now at 5 crits, 1 body. So of course, this adds a little more forgiveness. Now, as far as why I'm recommending this perk, it's for my folks that actually want to jump through the hoops to proc collective action. Cough, cough, Behemoth Titans. If you happen to be running stasis with my Icefall Mana build and Glacier Nades, you can go into every single encounter with collective action procced and that 10% buff. Granted, my roll here was not that great elsewhere. This was my only collective action roll. I was playing trials with it. If I had dynamic sway, it would have been fantastic. Now, I do understand that this is pretty niche. This is not a perk that everybody's going to want to use, considering that it locks you to a subclass to really optimize it inside of PvP, which takes us to cascade points. Final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon increases this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. Now, this is quite a unique option. For example, if you were to run in and get a kill with a shotgun, you could swap to Horror Story with cascade points, and suddenly you have the ability to kill in 0.48 seconds, which is nuts. Now, no, you're having to jump through some hoops. This is some steep activation requirements. Part of me wonders how this would work in a checkmate environment where special is not readily available. And actually rocking double primary may be the route to go. Whether landing a kill with another weapon or even landing precision shots with another primary weapon, you can then swap over to Horror Story and blow thy load. Now, another thing that makes Horror Story so good is actually its presence of origin traits. This is what really makes this weapon stand out this year. Outside, of course, the role combinations. We have Search Party and Nadir Focusing. Search Party reads that this weapon is granted faster aim down sight speed and movement speed while aiming down sights when no allies are near. Now, this origin trait is pretty good. The snappy ADS always feels great, and the increased stray speed is also a huge plus, but it relies on you being separated from your teammates or just playing solo. Granted, if you're in something like Rumble, this is easy to proc. But then we have the origin trait Nadir Focus. It reads that sustained fire increases accuracy and range. That also increases lunge distance for swords and projectile velocity for launchers, but the main focus here is the increase in accuracy and range. Now, if you're wondering, wow, that kind of sounds like dynamic sway reduction, which also rewards you for laying on the trigger, which means by simply holding down the trigger, you have 2 different traits that will be contributing to your accuracy, where one is literally boosting your range, which opens up a whole nother can of worms in terms of accuracy, and the other one boosting your stability. Now, guys, I went digging for Nadir Focus to see what are the data values on this origin trait. For instance, dynamic sway reduction, we have the stability bumps that it grants with each shot, the accuracy cone size, what it ramps up to, and that it reaches maximum strength at 10 shots. It's my understanding that Nadir Focus operates in the same way. Somewhere around 10 to 11 shots, I noticed that the increase in range occurs. Now, unfortunately, there's like no cue for this. There's nothing on our weapon that lights up, at least from what I'm seeing here, nor is there any like text or icon popping up to let you know that Nadir Focus is in fact working, but it is, guys. Now, I don't want this to veer off into like a Nadir Focus breakdown. Plus, I need to do more testing on other weapons with Nadir Focus, but my understanding with it so far is that it is very forgiving. Matter of fact, when I was just damage testing shots, it seemed like it would still bump my range up, even when I stopped firing. So it doesn't seem like it's like target lock, where you have to remain on target to get these benefits. It also doesn't seem like dynamic sway, where things drop off if you do not maintain that sustained fire. The question is what is the ramp up effect? And that is something I just don't know, guys. I'm waiting on D2 Foundry or even Light GG. Perhaps someone has already crunched the numbers and you guys can let me know. What I can tell you though is that the benefits are noticeable for Horror Story. The combination of dynamic sway with Nadir Focus and target lock are literally a combination of traits that says, hey, lay on the trigger, don't stop, we're gonna give you the kill and we're gonna give it to you fast. And I think a lot of people are really underselling this weapon. A max range roll, if you were to go max range, which I don't recommend going full bore, but if you were, we're talking 37 meters of range. 37! And keep in mind, this is after the range nerf. On top of that, I think another contributor contributing factor to why Horror Story does feel so sticky even outside of its damage fall off range, whether you're rocking like a mediocre range roll or not, is the fact that the weapon has 18 zoom. Ammit, which just got a zoom nerf, is sitting at 15. And I know zoom doesn't necessarily affect range anymore, but it definitely affects that stickiness, that aim assist fall off. And when you look across the board, whether it's 600 round per minute, auto rifles, 450s, like Positive Outlook, hell, even Firefights, you see that Horror Story zoom far outcompetes. Before somebody says, but Cross, Duty Bound has 18 zoom, that auto rifle's ass. Don't care how many god rolls you throw my way. I've got the god roll. Still feels terrible. Everything on Horror Story, though, is beautiful. Now, if none of this has convinced you to use this auto rifle, and I know Festival of the Lost is gonna just go on, then you're gonna notice yourself getting melted by this auto rifle a month or two later, and you're like, but why? Why didn't anyone tell me to get this weapon? Well, I'm telling you now. But if you need one more reason to get this weapon, we need to talk about recoil. Before I actually show you what the recoil looks like in game, I need to remind you guys of a pretty big update that went out at the beginning of the season. That update was deterministic recoil. This is a new system for all the weapons added in season 22 and any weapon coming in the future. Literally, that insignia, guys, is how you could tell whether or not the weapon in your hands has deterministic recoil or not. And going forward, all future weapons will have it. Now, for those wondering what the hell is deterministic recoil, what's in the name? It gives our weapons a specific overall pattern, with our recoil stat decreasing the left to right variance between shots within that predetermined pattern. Now, there's a lot of moving parts here. The fact that this weapon is a precision frame, so by default, it does have better recoil direction. The fact that the recoil direction at base is 73, which is vertical enough. And also a contributing factor is that dynamic sway will kick in, which is essentially like persistence back in Destiny 1. All I can tell you is that the gun feels good. Every shot feels manageable. Some weapons with target lock are kind of wasted, whether the weapon is just too spammy, whether you're missing shots, and again, target lock is such an unforgiving perk if you miss a shot. But Horror Story here, with the right rolls and combinations, that being dynamic sway and nadir focus, target lock is manageable. You can reach those optimal TTK values. You can reach that level of forgiveness. And you can see these perks kicking in, leveling this weapon out, making it super manageable. And I think the overall cherry on top is that beautiful deterministic recoil. This has resulted in Horror Story being one of the nicest feeling autos I have ever used. And believe me, fellas, we have used some fantastic auto rifles, especially here recently. So for my PvP players, for my folks that are thinking about skipping out on this event, I urge you to get this weapon. Check out our Festival of the Lost 2023 guide, jump in there, get some rolls of this thing. Hopefully you get lucky, because unless Bungie comes out and actually nerfs this thing directly or hits auto rifles again, which I don't think is gonna happen because they literally just gave them a nerf in range, Horror Story is gonna be putting in some work. And the only reason why you don't see it on the trials report charts is because nobody's got the god roll. But give it time, fellas. Give it time. Now that's our PvP roll. Now we need to talk PvE, because yes, there's some combinations here that are pretty potent. Specifically, Demolitionist and Headstone. Now, Demolitionist reads that kills with this weapon generate grenade energy, and activating thy grenade ability reloads this weapon from reserves. Now, the grenade energy regeneration is pretty nice at 10%. I really like a good Demolitionist weapon, but then when we pair it up with Headstone, things get funky. Again, Headstone states that precision final blows spawn a stasis crystal at the victim's location. A very good perk on stasis weapons, synergizes wonderfully with stasis builds, and I know stasis is not really meta right now, but Bungie's supposed to be giving us some love for stasis here next season. But the main takeaway here is that this combination allows you to feed back into your neutral game in amazing ways. The shatter damage when you spawn in those crystals, that synergizes heavily inside of our stasis subclass. Now, unfortunately, origin traits don't really buff anything here. I mean, we've got Nadir Focus, you've got Search Party, but you know, just go Nadir Focus for the most part. Not saying it doesn't help, but at least for this auto rifle, it's not gonna change the game. It's not like field prep, right? This is a good combination, guys. And whatever update is coming to stasis is the reason why I'm keeping this Demolitionist Headstone roll. So guys, that is our review here for Horror Story. A lot of people look at it and just think, just another Halloween weapon. But I'm telling you, fellas, if you do not get this thing, FOMO will set in. At the same time, if you don't get this thing, you make my life easier. I've been pooping on people left and right with this thing. And for my folks wondering about checkmates, I actually think this roll is gonna be even deadlier in checkmate, of which I utilize. Considering health pools and whatnot, I went into a rumble game of checkmate and it was popping off. I've been nothing but impressed with this auto rifle. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.